What's up guys, not Super Mario here and welcome to today's video. A couple of days ago I used a tier list to rank best picture winners in 21st century. So today I decided to rank and use again a tier list to rank all the MCU movies. Why? Well, Marvel and MCU is probably the biggest franchise ever made. And I know there are movies that stand on its own, but they are connected and you have to see all of them to understand the last of them and maybe the previous one and maybe next one or whatever. One of the best franchises, in my opinion, started in 2008, ended this first cycle of Infinity Saga last year, and it was incredible. And that's why I'm here to rank all of them. And once again, this is my tier list, my personal opinion. It's not gonna be the same as yours. So let's talk in the comments down below because you're probably gonna disagree with my choices. Anyway, let's begin. So like I said, 23 movies. And I will say this thing. I think that not a single one deserves a grade below 6. I think even the worst MCU movie is a watchable movie, even though there are some that are kind of unwatchable, but still I think that there's not a single movie that goes under the 6. And the first one that I have to rank over here is SpiderMan Homecoming, the first Spider-Man in the MCU. This was not his first appearance because he was introduced in Civil War, Captain America Civil War. And I will say this, I love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, not so much, even though I thought Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man was phenomenal. I think Tom Holland is the perfect casting. Right now we have perfect Spider-Man. And the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, if you go look back at them, they don't hold up. It's a movie from 2002, I think the first one, and then 2003, 2004, and they don't hold up as much as they maybe should have. Yet the story is still good, but the effects, the way they were shot, it doesn't hold up as much. So that's why I think Spider-Man that we have now is the best Spider-Man we'll ever get, in my opinion. I think it's gonna be really hard to be better than Tom Holland, if and when it's gonna happen, because it's gonna be when Tom Holland is 40. I'm sure there's gonna be a new Spider-Man. Anyway, back to ranking. Spider-Man Homecoming. Where should I put him? It was an awesome first movie for Spider-Man in MCU. Do I think it's super? No. Do I think it's A? No. I will give it a B. It's an awesome, very great story with an amazing villain, Vulture, Michael Keaton. I cannot wait to see him back. And Tom Holland did an amazing job, but I don't think it goes above B. Next one, first Thor. Yes, Thor. One of those franchises that was probably the worst franchises in the MCU. Started okay, then we know what happens after that, then we know what happens after that. And Thor, I think the one thing that I like about the first Thor is the Shakespearean style and the way they introduce the world of Asgard. I think it's incredible. I love Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth chemistry, that's the biggest problem of this franchise. So I am really curious what Taika Waititi is gonna do with the fourth one, where Natalie Portman is coming back. If you don't know, that's a spoiler, but it's been announced already. Thor, the first one, I like it. I like Loki, Odin, everything about it, except the whole connection. I don't believe in the connection between Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth. It just doesn't work, and for the most people it doesn't. But I love the Shakespearean look and the Shakespearean feel to it, and that's why I'm going give it to C. I think it's right way to be there. Ant-Man and the Wasp, the second movie in Ant-Man franchise. The biggest problem of this movie, in my opinion, is that it feels like a setup for Infinity War. And it was kind of mushed in there, even though it's its own story. We've got introduced to the original Wasp. I like that Evangeline Lilly got a lot more to do and was a Wasp. That was awesome to see. Michelle Pfeiffer as well. I really like this movie. But because it was like mushed in between Infinity War and Civil War, it kind of felt maybe this movie should come out earlier. but still, I like Ghost as a villain. It was completely something different. I like the effects around it. I like what the actress did with that character. And I hope we see her back, because if you've seen the movie, you know she's not dead. And I want to see more of Lawrence Fishburne in this franchise in general. But I think this goes into C. Just because it feels like mixed in between movies that were much better. Felt like a setup, especially, of course, the end credit scene, but they were trying to say and do a lot of stuff that are gonna be paid off in later movies. First Avenger, a movie that not enough people appreciated. If you go watch it back, I've seen it recently. If you go watch it back, it's actually a really good origin story in my opinion. But because in my opinion every other Captain America movie is better than the first one, and it really separates itself from what other movies were, because it's a period piece. All other Captain America movies are in modern era, and it's hard to compare it between those three movies. This is really hard. I don't want to give it a C, but I think I'm gonna give it a C. I've seen it recently, so my memory has been freshed with the knowledge about this movie. I like it a lot, but I still think that if I look at the origin stories, they are the worst part of MCU in my opinion. The first phase, because they were trying to figure out how this is gonna work, if it's gonna work, and it did at the end. You can see this is a multi-billionaire thing business. But I think first Avenger, it's not appreciated enough, but I'm still gonna give it a C. Moving on to next Captain America movie, Captain America Winter Soldier, directed by the Russo brothers, the first movie they directed in the MCU. This movie is phenomenal, and I think this is the first movie that didn't feel as a superhero movie. All movies before Captain America Winter Soldier were superhero movies, and I love them for that. Yeah, they were different vibes in them. They're trying like Thor Shakespearean, Iron Man totally something new. A lot of people didn't even know who Iron Man was. But Captain America Winter Soldier, it's a crime, thriller, political drama, superhero movie that has so many elements. It is action-packed. It has this amazing story about Bucky being back. I mean, I love it. I've seen it 3 days ago. It's phenomenal, and it is one of my favorite MCU movies, and that's why it goes into the best category possible. Superlicious, superb, however you want to call it. Winter Soldier deserves that spot. Ooh, now we got the big one. The first Avengers. Joss Whedon directed this movie perfectly. This is what superheroes from then on were supposed to be. This big action blockbusters with an amazing story, with an amazing characters being together, fighting against the same badass villain like Loki was in this movie, even though he was marionetted. I don't know, what are those dolls called in English? I don't know. You know what I mean, by Thanos. I think this movie is really, really, really good. But again, because there's so many other movies that I feel are better, I think this is what made superheroes like this big giant casts together, and everybody is now trying to do something like that. DC wanted to do that. Oh, everybody wanted to do a universe, and this is the staple of what a universe should look like if you're bringing a lot of different characters into one movie, and for that reason I give it an A. Doctor Strange, in my opinion, the best origin movie in the MCU. Yes, this will surprise you. I love it because it's so different, psychological, melancholy. The visuals are incredible. Scott Derrickson did an amazing job. I was skeptical for Benedict Cumberbatch being this character, but he blew me away. I love the story, especially the visuals. I love this movie. I know a lot of people will disagree with me, but Doctor Strange is, in my opinion, the best origin story in the MCU, and that's why it's not super. I'm not gonna say there are some problems, but I think, and the way this origin movie is one of those movies that deals with Infinity Stones directly, because Time Stone is a big thing in this movie. But the only problem with this movie is maybe the villain. Even though I love Mads Mikkelsen, but there was not enough of Mads Mikkelsen. But if you've seen the movie, at the end, Tilda Swinton's character was kind of villain because she was doing the same thing that Mads Mikkelsen was trying to do, even though she had great intentions. But you know, the intentions are not always the best thing. You have great intentions, but the way you're doing them or trying to execute them it's not the best. But I still love this movie. It goes next to the first Avengers because it deserves that spot in my opinion. Next one we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This movie I was so excited, and I think a lot of people were excited for this movie. And I don't like this movie. This is one of Marvel movies that I don't like. I don't rewatch a lot of times just because I didn't like it the first time, I didn't like it the second time. Everything that was good and incredible about the first one, they tried to replicate and do it even more. And I think they exaggerated every single thing that was amazing in the first one in the second one, and it didn't feel right for me. Even though, yeah, they tried the story with this dad, Ego the Living Planet. I love Kurt Russell. There are some things that I love about this movie. I mean, Baby Groot, who doesn't love Baby Groot? I love the Yondu Star-Lord connection. I love the way it ends. But as a whole movie, I am not a big fan of it. And this will surprise you, but this goes at the end of the pile in D for me. Yes, I know, but I don't particularly like this movie. I'm sorry. Black Panther, the only Best Picture nominee in this Marvel MCU thingy. I love Black Panther, but I feel I don't love it as much as a lot of other people do. And why? I always compare this movie with Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is phenomenal for 2/3 of the movie. Exactly goes for Black Panther. It's amazing, but the last third and other couple of things I didn't like about this movie, especially it's called Black Panther, and every single other character is more interesting than Black Panther in this movie. Okoye, Shuri, Nakia, Killmonger, Daniel Kaluuya's character, M'Baku, Everett Ross. No, it's not Everett Ross. What's the name of the guy who played Hobbit? I don't know his name. You can tell me in the comments down below. All of those stuff are better than Black Panther himself. He's not in the movie for 20-30 minutes, which made the movie better because he was not in it, but he's the main character, which is kind of weird. I love the direction, I love the visuals, except the last fight that was, yeah, I know it was rushed and everything, and they had some troubles in the production because of that, and that's not their fault because they've been rushed. They did what they could, but for that reason I give it a B. It goes next to Homecoming, and I think best origin story about Black Panther or the better introduction was in Civil War. That's why Black Panther to me is in B. Iron Man 2, a movie that I think nobody likes and I'm no exception. From the first one, which was a big success and big surprise, everybody was excited to see what Jon Favreau can do for the second time. And this movie, yes, it has some bright spots. I mean, it introduces Black Widow. We finally get the Rhodey that remains Rhodey for the eternity of this MCU, which I like. It's really hard to say what I like because I've seen this movie probably the least out of every single movie here. Why? Well, because I don't like it, and for that reason I'm not gonna blabber anymore. It just goes into the next to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I'm sorry. That's how it is. Avengers Age of Ultron. One of those Avengers movies that were not well regarded by the most people because it kind of got convoluted and a lot of stuff is happening in there. A lot of stuff get introduced, and maybe that's why it feels quite a lot. A lot of stuff is happening. I love Ultron as a character, but it's not as menacing as any other villains that we've got in MCU. I hope Ultron is one of those villains that I want to see return because I think he would be amazing if done right. Scarlet Witch was introduced. We've got a quick glimpse of Quicksilver. He ended in a bad way. I don't know if I like that honestly, but Scarlet Witch was in it. Vision. We've got an introduction to Vision. It's really hard to say how I feel about this movie. Once again, one of those movies that I haven't seen a lot, probably like 4 or 5 times. Maybe that's a lot already for some people. But I think this goes into C pile. It's not a D. I think it's better than Volume 2 and Iron Man 2, but it's not the best. It's the worst Avengers movie, that's for sure. Thor: The Dark World, a movie that I think everything went wrong with. Patty Jenkins declined an offer to direct this movie because she thought the script was shit and she couldn't do anything with it. And this resembles what the actual movie at the end was. Once again, the biggest problem of this movie, not just the villain is horrible, Malekith. I don't know, even the actor who plays Malekith, I don't know, was not happy with what they did. He wasn't happy with anything about this movie. And again, the chemistry between Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth is non-existing. So that's why this movie doesn't work, because that's the main plot of this movie. Natalie Portman's character in Jane, is it Jane? I think it's Jane. I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. God gets this stone in herself, even though it's kind of a smudge thingy. It's not even an Infinity Stone, which they mention in Avengers Endgame, which was nice because it is a smudge. It's all over the place. The one thing that I really like in this movie is probably one scene that I remember vividly. It's when Loki transforms himself into Captain America. I love that scene. But everything else, it's convoluted, it's discombobulated, and it goes next to Iron Man 2 and Guardians Volume 2 in D. Next movie is Incredible Hulk, a movie that a lot of people don't even think it's a part of MCU, but it is. Edward Norton playing the Hulk. I think he was good Hulk, but what happened. Now we have Mark Ruffalo, and I think he's amazing. He's a better Hulk, but it's hard to say if Edward Norton would be a better Hulk because he only had one movie, an origin story. The problem with this movie that I have is it's cheesy as heck. This movie is cheesy. I love what they tried to do with this movie, but the way it's done, it's cheesy. Abomination looks like an abomination. If you look, Iron Man and Incredible Hulk came out the same year, and the effects in Iron Man are fantastic. In Incredible Hulk, some of the stuff looks like something from PS1. And that's bad if you've got a movie that it's in the same universe looking like that when you've got Iron Man, which looks incredible. So that's why Hulk is, again, cheesy, the story, everything about it. Yeah, I wish it was better. I really do. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? But yeah, Hulk goes in the Captain America Civil War, or how I call it, and a lot of people call it, Avengers 2.5, not 2.5. Why? Because everybody that was ever in Avengers is in this movie. We got introduced to Spider-Man, Black Panther, the airplane scene itself, it's incredible. But once again, this movie, maybe it's not appreciated enough for its villain. I think Baron Zemo was really good villain. It was one of those villains that doesn't have any superpowers. He's upset what has happened to him, and that's why he tries to, or he successfully brings them apart. I love the scene between Iron Man and Captain America when they're fighting. You understand everybody's agendas, what they're trying to do. Everything about this movie is really good. But when you rewatch it, there are great moments, but some stuff feels like a filling. I'm not saying it's a bad movie because it's not. But it's really hard to put them aside or compare it to other movies when you've got so many great movies. I think it's a great movie. Do I like it as much as the first Avengers and Doctor Strange? I don't, and that's why it goes in B. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, a movie that surprised everybody. Nobody knew, even the Marvel Studios and Disney didn't know what's gonna happen with this movie. This was a big risk that paid off. I mean, this movie is incredible. What James Gunn did, he put 5 characters that shouldn't work together, and they worked. I mean, you've got, and the cast that for most part wasn't really known outside the film bubble. I mean, Chris Pratt, I don't know what, I mean, he was in The Office. No, not The Office. Oh my gosh. Parks and Recreation. I'm sorry. Yeah, Chris Pratt was there. Zoe Saldana, she was in Avatar, but she was Avatar. She was not in full makeup, full CGI. So I don't know how many people actually know she was in that. Dave Bautista, you've got Vin Diesel as Groot, probably the best performance because he only says 3 words. And Rocket Raccoon, Bradley Cooper. I mean, yeah, Bradley Cooper is probably the most known out of those. I love this movie. It's phenomenal. It is funny. It is heartwarming. Amazing story about losing their parents and how you deal with it. I mean, it's incredible. And that's why I'm so disappointed what the second one was, because everything they did in the first one, they tried to do in the second one, like max it out, exaggerate everything, and it didn't work. But this one, it's an A for sure. It's an amazing movie. This is so rewatchable. You can see it anytime. If you feel sad, happy, whatever, this is gonna make your day because it's an incredible movie, and that's why it goes in A. Avengers Endgame, the conclusion to 22 movies, even though the last one is Far From Home, that is after Avengers Endgame. This movie is as perfect as you can get. I was blown away by it, but you're gonna be surprised where I put this. I feel that Infinity War is better, and hear me why. I think that movies where you've got a villain as the main character and telling the story is harder to do, and they made it incredibly. This Infinity War and Endgame are so good, but if I have to compare it, which one I enjoy more, and I'll have to say I've seen Endgame more times than I did Infinity War, but Infinity War, in my opinion, is a better movie, and for that reason, I will give Endgame an A. Just for that reason, even though I think it's incredible, I cannot put both of them in the same category because I do think one of the movies is better than the other one, and that's why I put it in A. Iron Man, the first one. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it started everything. It started completely everything. This was once again a big risk by everybody who was involved with this movie because they didn't know what's gonna happen. They didn't know. This was John Favreau. You've got Robert Downey Jr. that was having a lot of troubles before this movie, and he tried to come back, and this movie was his comeback, but nobody knew that this will work, and it did. I mean, in 10 years, they made a franchise with 23 freaking movies, and it works beautifully. And for that reason, it's a really good movie. I like Jeff Bridges as the villain, even though he plays the bad Iron Man. And a lot of times in superhero movies, you've got the main character who's like, let's say, Spider-Man, and then you've got a bad character that is a bad Spider-Man, like Venom, Carnage, whatever. But in this movie, it really does work. Do I think it's better than Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Endgame? I don't. But I think it deserves spot in B. It's a phenomenal movie. It started everything, and for that reason, it deserves a B grade. Captain Marvel. I think this is an easy choice. I really like this movie. I think it came out a bit late, too late in my opinion. I think it's a good origin story, fish out of water style. I like Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, but I want to see more. It's really hard to get connected with a character that you've only seen twice, 3 times. I mean, one movie for herself. She had one movie for herself, and then she appeared twice for a few minutes in Infinity War and Endgame, and we know she's OP. But her movie, I think it's a C. It came out too late. There are some problems with it. I think it's a good movie, but I don't feel it's above C, in my opinion. Spider-Man Far From Home. I think it's a better movie than Spider-Man Homecoming, but I don't think it's better than Doctor Strange Guardians of the Galaxy. What I like, especially with this movie, is Mysterio, Jake Gyllenhaal, incredible. The way they set up the future of MCU in this movie. I think it's perfectly, except especially for Spider-Man's future. I think they did an amazing job. You've got J.K. Simmons back, as freaking J. Jonah Jameson. I love this movie. The way they brought elementals in it, I think it's incredible. Mysterio, that is a character that it's kind of hard to take seriously in the comics because he's a guy who does special effects and he has this weird fish bulb. It worked. It worked beautifully. I wouldn't put it in A, but I think it's on par with all the movies in B for sure. Iron Man 3. A movie that did something with the Mandarin that most people didn't like. I like it. I really do like it. I think Ben Kingsley was the best choice for Mandarin for that reason. But yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it. It's one of those movies that you see and you like, but you don't remember a lot. It doesn't set up anything. It really does stand on its own. So for that reason, I'm gonna give it a D. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it. I don't particularly remember a lot about it, and I don't particularly like it as much as other movies. Ant-Man, a movie that had probably the biggest troubles in the pre-production, then production. This movie should have been directed by Edgar Wright. I still think not John Watts. Oh my gosh, Reed. What's his name? Oh my gosh, John Watts directed Spider-Man movies. You can tell me in the comments down below. I'm blanking on his name. I love Ant-Man. I really do. Even with all the troubles that it had, I think it's a really good movie. Paul Rudd, I think it's a phenomenal addition to MCU. Like Michael Douglas and Evangeline Lilly. I mean, it's incredible. It has one of the best scenes when Michael Pena narrates the way he found. It's incredible. I love that. It's a really good origin story. I give it a B. I know you're probably not gonna agree with me, but I like this movie a lot with all the problems. I really like the Yellow Jacket. The fight between Ant-Man and Yellow Jacket was phenomenal, really well made. I like this movie a lot. Two more movies left. Avengers Infinity War. I already talked about it when I ranked Avengers Endgame. I think between those two, Infinity War is better just because it's told from the Thanos' perspective, the way they show how powerful he is. It's incredible. I mean, he is kicking ass. And the way they present his agenda, it's incredible. You understand why he's trying to do that, even though it's the worst way possible. And they try to make him, you try to feel for him, and you understand what he's doing it, why and how and everything. And I love this movie. This movie is like Captain America Winter Soldier, in my perspective, my opinion, perfect. It's done beautifully. It has a lot of great moments. The ending is surprising. Even though you know they're coming back in the Endgame and all of those, a lot of people had problem with that because you know they're coming back. These are comic book movies. Everybody's coming back. Comics, if you read comics, it's the same. Nobody ever dies. But I love they stick with it, especially even though we are getting Vision back in Scarlet Witch series. But I like that they're sticking with the deaths that happened, even though they found a way to reintroduce some other people that died in this movie. But I love this movie a lot. This is a superb, superlicious, best Avengers movie in my opinion, and it's gonna be one of the best, if not the best, comic book movies ever made. And the last one, we've got Thor Ragnarok. Taika Waititi's Thor movie. This one is incredible. A franchise in MCU, inside of MCU, that I think had the most problems with the characters. And Taika Waititi came and reinvigorated this franchise and made Thor exciting again. Yes, they put Hulk in it, which was incredible. You've got a glimpse of the Planet Hulk comic thingy. I loved it. I want to see more. I cannot wait to see the fourth one. But like I said, the biggest issue with this franchise, Thor franchise, is the chemistry and connection between Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth. I'm sure they go along fine, but in the movie it doesn't show it. And now she's coming back in the fourth one. I want to see how this is going to work, but I trust in Taika Waititi that he's going to do an amazing job Thor Ragnarok is one of the funniest, if not the funniest, MCU movies. I loved it. Hela was an incredible villain. I want to see more of her. Heimdall, Loki, Thor. I mean, amazing. Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie. All the new additional characters. Korg, Meek. I loved it. It's really hard to say a bad word about this movie. I cannot wait to see the fourth one. Where should I put it? I think this is an A. I wouldn't put it in superlicious, superb, because I don't want to put a lot of movies up there, just because you have to have like a movie that is above everyone. And I think Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Avengers Infinity War deserves the spot at the top, but Thor Ragnarok goes a rank or a level below those two movies because it deserves it. So yeah, this was my ranking tier list of Marvel MCU movies. There's a lot of other Marvel movies that are not in MCU, but I decided to do only MCU movies. If you want to see any tier list that I should do, leave it down in the comments down below, and also leave your opinions on this tier list, and leave your tier list, or tell me what would you change, because I think there's a lot of things that you would change in the tier list that I just made. But yeah, be nice, share your opinions in the comments down below about this video if you like it. If you're not, leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and share this video all over the place. Click the bell icon to get notified if I upload, because if you don't, you're not gonna see my videos, because YouTube sometimes can be shit. Anyway, if you enjoyed it, see you next time. Leave a like, all those stuff. I don't know what was I trying to say, but this is gonna be it for today. See you next time.